Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who is still in quarantine for having COVID in his basement. Today I'm going to be reviewing the new EP by Petras, Slut Pop, and I'm going to be taking her direction, and I'm going to be taking it seriously. Here's a quote from her. "People don't take people seriously, women especially, who sing slutty songs or songs about sex and write it off as not being important. I think that's so stupid. I fully believe it takes as much skill as writing any other kind of song. And so I was like, you know what? I make slut pop, and I'm proud of that. So let's take this seriously. Let's take this short collection of very, very pornographic songs. I'm a little bit uncomfortable because my son is also in quarantine, and he's on the other side. He's working on some history homework, but he has headphones in, so he won't have to hear his dad talking about slut pop. Which I guess kind of hints at the taboo nature of this album in the first place. Maybe part of the reason why people have a hard time taking it seriously. Before I get to the album, there is the elephant in the room, which is the fact that it's all produced by Dr. Luke, who is currently in litigation with Kesha on sexual abuse claims. Those are still outstanding. He still works with Doja Cat as well. I'm not going to be taking a position on that because that's a legal case. And based on the research that I've done, there's no clear conclusion as to what did or did not happen. That's not me taking a side. That's me just putting it aside and allowing us to study Kim Petras's and Dr. Luke's work outside of that context. Now, this is the third album of theirs that I've reviewed, the collaboration between Kim Petras and Dr. Luke. The first one I was completely unaware that she was trans until after having listened to the album and written all my notes, and I just happened to stumble on it. And I didn't address it on the second review, or really because it isn't material. It doesn't really matter. But I think in the context of her asking us specifically to take slut pop seriously, I think this paratext is necessary. This element of her being assigned male at birth is important. So what I did is I did a little bit of research. And it's a weird thing. We live in a strange time where I feel like we're finally addressing trans rights and understanding them as human rights. But also there's a sort of a forgetfulness. In reality, Kim Petras should be a much bigger star than she is in a political sense as a figure of trans heroism. Her story, her visibility in the public eye goes back 12 years. 2000 and Barack Obama 10. That's how long ago she started appearing on television telling her story. So let's talk about that, because I think this is interesting. I think that this helps to trace us where we are, where we can go, where we were 12 years ago versus where we are now. There are two news reports that you can watch on YouTube. They're fascinating. They're amazing documents. It's like finding a weird time capsule from the moment where the world culture was starting to understand, just barely starting to understand trans rights. She apparently identified herself as being female from the age of 2. She's German. And she's on this TV show talking about this experience, about transitioning at the age of 16. And she's on a British show called This Morning. And it was just 12 years ago, but already she's referred to as, their words, not mine, the world's youngest transsexual. And what's amazing is how far things have gone. I mean, it's interesting because the people who are interviewing her, on the one hand, they're treating her very seriously and being very compassionate. On the other hand, they dead name her constantly. They constantly talk about her dead name, which I will not mention on this channel, ever. They seem to sort of validate her choice, but at the same time, they have to really justify it through the lens of dysphoria and dysphoria. And there's this amazing moment where one of the hosts, she says, a lot of parents would just think that you'd forget all about it, but you didn't forget all about it, implying that this is something that can be forgotten about. But it wasn't just that. It wasn't just this British show. Also on The Insider, a CBS show in America, the same question, the same headline, the world's youngest transsexual. which has this one sentence which encapsulates how far we've come in a real way. It says, and I'm not going to say the dead name, "The boy who went from dead name to Kim. This is her story." Ah, you were so close. You were so close. You ended it with "this is her story." But as a culture, even well-meaning liberals, people like myself, who weren't paying a lot of active attention to this, didn't understand how offensive it is to start off with a dead name and to start off calling someone a boy. So it's amazing to see how far we've come. And first of all, can we just take a second to applaud what she was doing 12 years ago? I mean, these are major. I mean, if I had seen this 12 years ago, and I've talked about this on the channel a fair amount, that I am relatively slow to accepting trans rights, to my shame, right? That's sort of, we all carry bigotry within ourselves to a certain extent, and I've really had to come to terms with that over the past few years, understanding how little I understood, understanding how much of the dominant paradigm I have internalized and used to hurt other people, right? So if I had seen this 12 years ago, it would have kind of blown my mind. I would have sat there and been like, how that's irresponsible, and how dare they do this, and how dare they do that. But there she was 12 years ago on national TV, on multiple different nations, international TV, saying everything that we now know to be true. And saying it at a time where it was barely even thought of in the mainstream. And what has she done since then? Well, she succeeded in becoming a pop star. 12 years later, she releases this album, which is just all about celebrating, I'm going to use some normative language here, dark, dirty sexual urges. For who? For men, women, and non-binary people who like to be turned on by music. And make no mistake, if this album doesn't turn you on, at least on some level, you probably don't have a switch. Or you have so much repression going on, you can't access it. So is it political? It's not overtly political, but is this political? When she says that we don't take women seriously enough when they write about sex, is this, therefore, a feminist act? The radical act of a woman writing about sex? To a certain degree, of course it is. Same thing with WAP. Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion and The Stallion, all these artists, these female artists who are taking female sexuality, Shenseea, and throwing it right in your face and making you deal with it. And then on the other hand, is it a political act to have a trans woman making this kind of music in which you are forced to be turned on by a trans woman? Like you are in a position of, you hear these words, you hear these images, straight old normies like me, cis normo gendatrons like myself, have to sit there and go, I feel something, and if I knew that I felt that way, if I knew that this person would make me feel this way 15 years ago, before I woke up and understood and had a better understanding of these things, I would have felt shame. I would not have just felt turned on, I would have felt shame. So is this a political act in that way? Is this silly 20-minute album, which features a song called Throat Goat, is this, in a way, the most politically charged song, album about sexuality you could possibly have? Or is the real move this? No, it's not political. That is putting it in a box. That is otherizing this music. We are not supposed to hear it and go, oh, isn't it interesting that a woman made it? Or isn't it interesting that a woman who was assigned male at birth is making it? This is just a bunch of dirty songs for strip clubs and going to the gym and going extra hard on the elliptical. Music that makes you uncomfortable to listen to when you're around your family. This isn't trans music. This isn't woman's music. And treating it as such is marginalizing. I think, what I have to do now is just put all that aside. The most evolved thing to do, the most ethical thing to do, is to study this raunchy, orgasm-filled piece of music with mascara streaming down its face as just a piece of art. Neither dark, nor twisted, nor taboo, nor straight, nor gay, nor cis, nor trans. just slut pop, as it is. And that's what I'm going to do. After 10 minutes of explaining what I'm not doing, it's called preterition. It's a rhetorical technique. You should look it up. I'm now going to do what we should do automatically. And this is what I did with our first couple albums, and this is what I think we should be doing. But I think it's an interesting, I know it's an interesting thing to trace the development from this person who has been fighting this fight for 12 years without directly saying, I'm fighting a fight. That's what makes her so interesting. Is she's not like, you better respect me as a woman. She's just like, I'm a woman and I want to get freaky. That's just what she says. That's just what she does. And it's up to us to understand it. So this album, ironically, reminds me a lot of Kesha. Reminds me a lot of LMFAO, LMFOA, whatever that band was, that party rock. It has kind of a frat EDM feeling that at times will verge, when it's a little bit more polished, into sort of a housey Daft Punk-like terrain. That's why those guys are behind me. It's never really original, but it's never really boring. And it's always good. It's always going to get your head nodding. It's always going to get, you sort of feeling. It's, if you like, if you enjoy listening to very charged or consuming very sexually charged content, it's perfect. So it opens up with the track Slut Pop, which is going to be my stamp, an example of how this album sounds. This is really Dr. Luke does Daft Punk. It's got a cool kind of crunchy, loopy, burpy bass, very compressed sounds, a house beat underneath. Again, more that very simplistic early frat party EDM. She has a pre-chorus in here, Kim does, where she goes into what I call Madonna mode. And viewers of this channel will know that I love Madonna. But I don't like it when people sing like Madonna. There's a kind of thinness to the way people sound when they sing like Madonna. So that's my least favorite part of this album. But then there's a cool chorus, has kind of a slight vocoder section, again in that Daft Punk mode. And the whole thing just starts off with the thesis of the album. This is Slut Pop. Whip your dick out. Turn your bitch out. Out, 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 out. That's the theme of the album. Very cool breakdown, kind of like Daft Punk-y as well, and cool repetition as it kind of goes out of just slut, 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 pop, 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 pop. Oh my God, this is not going to be monetized, is it? I might have my first demonetized video because of talking about sexuality. What am I going to do though? Oh, you can buy a mug to make up for the sweet pennies I'm losing on this. Man, I left the tea bag in there too long. That's not sexual. I left the tea bag in there way too long. It's like Earl Grey and there's like no sugar. I want to give you that sense. This is a very sensual episode today. I want you to have that taste in your mouth of an Earl Grey tea bag that's just been left in there for like 45 minutes. Okay. The next song is called Treat Me Like a Slut. Starts off with, again, kind of like that jock jam, party rock, 3-note. But it starts off with a pre-chorus that I think is an intentional kind of reference to Technologic by Daft Punk. Slip it, ride it, dip it, that it. But her version is, ride it, slide it, bite it, get inside it, come on, touch my body. I know you like it, you can't hide it, come on, touch my body, hotter, bigger, faster, longer, thicker. Stuff like that, on and on. Playful, fun. It's just, all these songs are just bangers. Like if you need to listen to a song and get psyched up, this whole album does that. It reminds me a fair amount. So when electronic music first arrived, when normie gendotrons like myself were first experienced, first interacted with it, when heteronormie gendotrons like myself, please feel free to send me a drawing of what a normative heterogendertron is, heard club music, it was often parodied. And one of the best ways it was parodied was in the movie Night at the Roxbury with Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan, where they just say, "What is love? Baby, don't hurt me." And they're just nodding their head the whole time. That's what good house music can do. Good EDM music can do, can make you just be compelled to just nod your head and just really get into it. And this song does that quite a bit. But of course, you're just sitting there and singing, "Treat me like a slut, some more. What is love?" Okay. Next song is called XXX. Simple, straightforward, I don't know, Ibiza keyboard. I don't know if that's a term, but that's what it made me think of, with a lot of orgasmic sounds. I want to XXXXXXX, super hard, raunchy sex verse, beat it up, eat it up. Those words rhyme. Kim Petras will make sure that you know that a lot of words rhyme, and eat it up and beat it up are a couple of them. Another kind of Madonna-y pre-chorus, breathy and a bit annoying, but I really like the outro, where it's just kind of repeating this XXXXXXXXX over and over again. And it's a good example of what I think she's talking about in that intro. It's just as hard to write good erotic songs as it is to write good non-erotic songs. And like playing around with this letter XXXXX is quite interesting. Next song is called Superpower, Bitch, which has a very overly simple beat. It's all about compelling a man to orgasm and then, quote, spit you out like gum. I think you can figure out what rhymes with gum. Not one of the best songs, but I like the slight changes in the chorus. Actually, no, you know what? It's one of my least favorite songs on the album, but it has maybe the best development in the album. Towards the end, there's like this chorus where there's like a secondary voice that like keeps rising underneath, and it's some of the best production on the album. It's really quite. I mean, I await the I await the determination from the court as to whether or not Dr. Luke is the monster that some claim he is, and others equally claim he is not. But boy, he can really produce, and that's really clear on this song. The next song is the previously mentioned Throat Goat, which is, there's a playfulness to this album, and that's a thing which. Because sexuality, especially women's sexuality, is considered so taboo, rarely if women feel they can make enough space for themselves to have a voice at all, it's hard for them to then go further and take the space to be funny with it, right? Like, it's often quite serious. I mean, going back to Madonna and her amazing pioneering in this field, it's such an uphill battle to express female sexuality at all, that to get to the point where you can goof with it, where you can write a song called Throat Goat that is filled with sounds of goats, like literal goats in the background. It's goofy as hell, and like gargling sounds, and it's a simple idea, it's a goofy rhyme, it's a joke. But I said I wasn't going to do it, but it is a political masterpiece. Throat Goat by Kim Petras is a political masterpiece because it is funny, because it is silly, and is talking about sexual acts which are rarely talked about in light ways, in funny ways, in ways that have this kind of sense of humor. It's very kind of minimalist, the music, but is it good? Yes. It is Night at the Roxbury perfection. Next song is They Wanna F. I'm not going to say all the swears on this. All the swears on this. Very simple beat, very simple lyrics. It just goes through all the people that want to F. What kind of boys want to F? Like LA boys, New York boys, Euro boys, Dubai boys, Christian boys. And I don't want to go too far in this, but I think this song is surprisingly profound. It's kind of a ditty. It's barely even really a song. The bridge is just her saying, I want to F over and over again. But there is something profound about the universality of the erotic urge, something which in most societies is repressed and said to be something bad, but this is just the universal truth. All them boys want to F, and so does she. Ta-da! Welcome to the continuation of the erotic dance that has been playing since human beings were first created. Created? Yeah. That's my COVID brain talking. Human beings were created by Henry VIII. The final track is Your Wish Is My Command, which is definitely the worst track on the album. I sort of wish it wasn't on there. It's not that it's terrible. I'll tell you why it's actually kind of good at the end. But it's more kind of Madonna style. It's sort of S&M stuff, which, I don't know. Like, going into S&M stuff, like, I feel like there's already been a lot of very good work on popularizing and normalizing the desire for S&M amongst women. you know, I want a man to control all. I want a man to take control all night. Can you push me to the limit? It's okay, but it doesn't have the same punch or originality as a track like Throat Goat. I love this channel. I get to say sentences like that. I don't get to say that stuff when I teach. Very minimalist sound. It's sort of the worst track, except at the end. All of a sudden, for the first time since the first two tracks, we get a more Daft Punky sound, cool, choppy keyboard solo with vocalizer sounds, which makes it that if you listen to it on Tidal, like I do, and it repeats, that you sort of have a nice sort of beginning and ending in this kind of Daft Punk mode. So there's my review. My apolitical and political review. My apolitical review, which is the most political review. Please smash the like bucket. Feel free to whenever I talk about these things, inevitably, I say something which I regret and which betrays my current lack of enlightenment. I'm not saying that sarcastically. So there's a real good chance I've said something which is actually offensive, which is not based, as the kids would say. So feel free to tell me what I said or how I said it, because I take it seriously. It's only through this work that I've done. It's not easy to overcome 40 years of prejudice that's been built into your head and you don't even notice until it's challenged. It's not hard to overcome it. So please feel free to correct me, or just tell me how based I am in the comments. Although, is based bad now? Is based a right-wing thing now? I don't even know anymore. Okay, until next time, there's the camera.